The worst thing that I did to a child molester in prison. Now, I'm not proud of anything that led me to prison. I made those decisions. I understand that regardless if I was robbing drug dealers or whatever armed robberies I was doing on other dirtbags, it doesn't matter. There's still victims. There's still people that could get hurt. It affects everybody, and it costs money, time, and, I could have been there for my family. So it isn't about me. However, anybody who rapes women, hurts children, there is no pity and there is no regret, because regrets aren't bad. They teach you what not to do and how to do things better. When it comes to chomos, I know when they get out, they will reoffend. And anyone who says they didn't have any problems, they're lying. When I first came into prison, I wanted to make this my life. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I finally felt accepted. I wasn't in an organization, but I was in a unit where people were all doing life, high management, high risk inmates. And I'd raise my hand for everything. And they would look at me like, you go home in about 7 years. Why are you doing this? Meanwhile, none of them have a release date. However, I told myself coming into prison that I will never be a victim, ever. And I will go after as many child molesters and rapists and woman beaters as possible. It was a way to compartmentalize and maybe all the anger and built up things from when I was a younger kid, whatever it was. I didn't want any of the cigarettes. I didn't want all the magazines. All I wanted was discipline. And I made that like my warfare, my gladiator pit. And, it cost me more time and I shouldn't have made it home. In this particular incident, I was told that a dude was coming in who had some serious charges that hurt children, multiple children, and this is his 4th time on the same offenses. I had received a letter, and when I say letter, there's a thing called a 1030, and that's basically they now allow kites to be written to officers, and that's a way for people to check in. Well, we call it a sit call, the opposite. And what somebody will do is when they get the word from the officer or whatnot, whoever it is, they're going to say, we're going to put a sit call in for you and him, and you'll be at this exact spot at this time, and this is what he did. And basically they'll reach out and let you know that you have this much time to handle business, and you might have this and this and this if you do it correctly. What that means is a victim has contacted somebody, allegedly, and wants retribution for what they did to their child. Now, to me, this is community service. I'll do it for free. However, it is nice to know that if I do end up getting a life sentence or whatever it is, I'll have some honey buns and some deodorant at least. But all kidding aside, and the way we would go about it is first I get briefed, because I was raising my hand for everything. I felt like I was in Harvard. That's how I felt. The more max security, the more killers, the more high-ranking unit I was in with people, stab-only sides, I loved it because I felt like I finally accomplished something. That's how warped I was as a youngster. You literally have to go insane to understand that. So I raised my hand and said, I got this, And the officer comes up to me, tells me to play about the sick call, shows me what this dude did. I mean, the dude had at least 11 counts of molestation, multiple children, girls and boys, just horrible. And they keep letting him out, in and out. It was just unbelievable. So I reach out to somebody that I know works into the medical area, and I write him a kite, which is a letter to another inmate, and I use a special type of ink, piss. And, you write whatever you want to write. You could just draw something on there like a stick figure. But really, it's to let him know that there's piss on this. And he could hold a little candle, flame, whatever to it, and the ammonia, once it dries out, will have exactly what needs to be said on there. Medieval shit. It turns it into soot. And what I asked him was, I can't get to medical with any type of objects, and I'll probably be in the black shackles, and they might take them off for about 2 or 3 minutes if somebody makes a mistake, and I'm going to need something metal to hurt him, because I'm not looking to fist fight this chomo. He doesn't deserve that respect. So he writes back, and it comes back to me through the officers. They pass the kites back and forth because it's a serious thing, and as a 24-year-old, in my mind, like, this is the most serious thing in my life. And I got to go in there, sneak in there, get a weapon, smash this dude, and probably get sprayed by the officers and get shipped to another prison and who knows what, you know. And everybody has to be careful that no one loses their jobs or is, you know, indicted or anything like that, because you're essentially, allegedly taking money from somebody to get a job done that has hurt a child. And to think that that even is a crime is fucked up, right? Anyway, so he writes back on there, and he even made a joke like Mission Impossible. This letter will explode in 10 seconds. And he wrote in the invisible ink piss, you know, and said, yeah. And basically, it'll be here. Kind of drew a little map. You know, I burnt it, flushed it, gone. So in some of the units in Florida, in the CM units where I was at, in confinement, DC disciplinary confinement, high management confinement, 24/7, period. So the only way you can get it, one, is if you accidentally cross paths on the shower thing, or, you know, you guys are able to get a door open by accident, or a cellmate is by accidentally put in your cell, and they leave for 30 minutes at a time. However, this dude was writing grievances. I mean, he was doing so much shit, and some of them would get out, and he brought a lot of heat down on there. So for one, I just wanted to get at him for what he did to these children. I wanted him to never be the same again, never be able to hurt children again, because he still had a release date. Even though he was a little older, he still was going to get out in 15 years for his third offense on children. But he would get off on the fact that he was in protective management. And like I was saying, is in the disciplinary confinement, you'll have protective management inmates that they're not in PC. They just don't know where to house them, because wherever they go, they get razor tagged, sliced, beaten, extorted. Dudes are trying to kill them on every fucking corner. And we're all in here as high management, custody issues, security threat. You know, everyone's in this unit together and can only be let out at certain times based on your affiliations, your custody, your propensity for violence, officer attacks and whatnot, or what you're in there for, investigations, so on and so on. And this dude would scream, yeah, motherfuckers, y'all can't even get at me. Like, he would get off on the fact that he hurt kids, and he loved the fact that it was making the dudes he knows he would never face one-on-one mad that he would basically be protected in this prison. Miscalculation on his part. I think that he knew he was in danger, but he didn't know how intricate this world was. It's medieval times in there. I'm really Machiavellian. So they call us for medical, and he's like, I'm not going. Like, he starts, they're like, come on, man. Come on, you're safe, right? You know, officers are being professional, taking him. They take me, they handcuff me. When you're in confinement with a roommate, he has to face the wall, real high level, high security. 2 officers have to be with each inmate. They have to have a hand on you at all times. So they finally get us to medical, and you're walking like, you know, like that with the black box on. And as I enter, I see the orderly there, and, you know, he could tell me with his eyes, you know, what's up? You know, it's all good. I don't know what the weapon is. I didn't want to know. You know, we don't want to put anything like that out there, because then it shows that there's more people that knew about it. You just want, the less is more sometimes. And the officer puts me in the seat that I was supposed to be in, and he goes, all right, I'm going to take off the black boxes, but he still had like the waist chains on us. So I was able to still kind of reach a little bit under my seat. I feel it, and it's a lock and a sock. I feel it. I don't know if it was a sock, but it was some type of tube, metal object in there. And I said, oh. And the dude the whole time is saying, why the fuck am I here? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm playing it cool. I'm not arguing with him, because that will just tip him off. I have to literally wait until my opportunity presents itself, act like I can care less about what's going on, get the okay. The sign was that the officer is going to get his dip and walk out there to spit real quick, and that's when I'm going to pop off. And we're going to say that he was trying to gun down, basically yank his thang at one of the nurses. That was the reason I went off on him. So the officer uncuffs me, says, you're next to go. And I'm going into the office with the nurse. I grab the lock in the sock. As I'm walking in there, she knows what time it is. I beeline it. She's in on it too. She says, he's gunning me. I start beating his face in with the lock. I mean, everything is smashed. I said, put that shit away, you fucking predator, piece of shit. Breaking his face. Blood is flying everywhere. She runs out, you know, because she knows what's going on. She gets the officers. They pepper spray me. They start pepper spraying him all in his wounds. We look like the Elephant Man. Stay out, stay free, and leave our kids alone. Us.